I can stay away from you. I can stay away. I try to.
When I was 16, my whole world was turned upside down. I made one of the most horrific decisions in my life, and it cost me. I was charged with first-degree murder, armed robbery with a firearm, and sentenced to 2 natural life terms in prison without the possibility of parole. And I've served 31 years in prison. What's up, world? This JD again. And man, I know I left y'all a little bit hanging last time, so I'm gonna give it to you good. I'm gonna give you the ups and the downs of coming up in prison, thinking you coming up in prison and doing the right thing, or trying to help yourself out, or trying to chase your goals and dreams. But in reality, you sinking in quicksand. I'm gonna show you that in this episode. Now check this out. When I was out South Bay, I thought I had the world in my hand. You know, you couldn't have told me that I was in prison still. You know, I had so many females that was sweating a brother. I'm pretty sure they were sweating a brother because in my own right, I felt like I was eating. I felt like I was doing what I was doing. You know, I had me a couple of babies, you know what I'm saying, on one shift and on another shift. You know, I ain't had like the rest of the cats had because they had real money. But I wasn't doing bad either. Like I told you in the last episode, I even bought me this chain. And listen, I spun some ducks for it too. You feel me? Okay. Now, even though I was getting all this money, I had these babies and all these different things going on, it was still an underlining of unhappiness that was eating up my soul. You know why? Number one, because I was still in prison with 2 natural life sentences, and I had no chance to go home, even though I had all this good. How can all this good that I'm getting in prison compare to what I'm losing if I was home? Now check this out. Now, this don't just go for me. This go for everybody in my situation in the chain gang. And there's a lot of people that was in my situation in the chain gang. I'm talking about life sentences. And if y'all out there and you free, like I'm free, you feel me? But every day I leave out the dormitory and I just hit the breezeway, walking to where I wanted to walk. All I had to do was put my hand over the door and the door buzzed open. You know what I'm saying? Because the babies already knew what I was about and where I was going. That's the type of pull, that's the type of jug that I got. You know, but you know what? I got big-headed. One of my dogs, my best friends, he told me, he said, listen, Devin, he said, one day, you know, you've been flying up under the radar, but one day your head gonna go above that radar and it's gonna get scoped out. And I used to tell this dude, man, listen, never need me in years would that ever happen to me because I'm in my square and my game tight. Little did I know my head was sticking above the radar right then. And I got put a big bullet in it. And I ended up getting transferred from that spot. Now, when I got transferred from that spot, it was ridiculous. I had a dude that I thought was cool with me, who really wasn't cool with me, who wanted to stab me on my back over something that wasn't either one of ours. You know what I'm saying? Now, check this out. It was of the feminine kind now that this dude was beefing for me about. But, you know, me and her days had been in played. That was over. You know what I'm saying? So where the beef was coming from? This is what I wanted to know. But his beef was the cause of me getting transferred. I'm gonna give y'all a little synopsis of what I'm talking about. You know, one day, me and this dude was in the same spot. We was serving on the line, getting food out, you know, for whatever reason that was, you know, and This dude seen a certain someone come and said, hey, how you doing? This dude went berserk. He took the pots that the food was in and dumped all of them on the floor. I mean, this dude went crazy. And that escapade brought attention and light to me being in this sweet spot with so much going on. And guess what? The people transferred me. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I felt like my life was over. I felt like real prison was settling in. And in reality, it was. It was settling in real good. Because, listen, when I got on that bus, the third bus that I ever been on, heading back north, past Lake again, past all that other stuff, to Cross City Corrections. It was like, oh my God, not again. Now listen, check this out. You remember when I told you I went to South Bay? How all them girls was waiting on us on the other side of the door? Well, when I went to Cross City, let me tell you something. When they told you to put your head to the ground, they mean that. It wasn't nothing waiting aside. Wasn't nothing at all waiting aside. And it wasn't a good time. It was hell on earth. I was at Cross City for 14 years, and so much stuff happened. So many things happened, man. When I first came on the compound, it was like I was coming to the ghetto again. I couldn't believe where I was at. You know what I'm saying? But this wasn't no ordinary camp. It wasn't a black camp. It was a white boy camp. In reality, yes, it was. You know what I'm saying? That ain't no bad scale, because it is what it is. Some camps you go, they all Chicos there. Some camps you go, they all blacks there. Some camps you go, they all whites there. This was that type of camp. You know, so you had to handle yourself accordingly. Absolutely. When I got to that camp there, after being 10 years at South Bay, doing every and other kind of thing, you understand me? I knew the difference. Off rip, I knew the difference. Soon as I came off the bus, I went and put my stuff up. You know, I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, you know, I wanted to see who watching me. The first thing I did was I met a couple of dudes that I knew from other camps. And that's how it usually is when you do about 10 years or better. When you do 10 years or better, when you come to a camp, dudes pretty much have a school or have a yearbook of who you is. Because dudes are talking about you throughout the compound, depending on what you do, not just your compound, but every compound. You feel me? So a couple of people knew about me and what I was about. And it opened up doors to other things for me. Now, when I first came to the compound, I went to the rec yard. I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, you know what I'm saying? This camp might be what's up. Because it was more open than South Bay. South Bay was more closed in. This camp, this rec yard was huge, grass. They had a softball field. They had a twin basketball court. They had a handball wall. Everything was going on. I mean, you had, whites over here, blacks over here, you know what I'm saying, Chicos over here, Mexican over here. Everybody was divided. It was segregated. But I was used to that. So when I hit the rec yard, I'm like, okay, you know what I'm saying, can I get in where I fit in? Heck yeah, I can get where I fit in. You know why? Because they had weights there. And it was sweet. I said, oh my God. I said, okay, then I can deal with this. They got weights I can push up. But you know the only thing that I didn't see that really, was my pedigree for the last 10 years was females. It wasn't no females there. Half the compound was all men. Yeah, it was. So that element of the game that I was used to was out of there. But in this process, I'm growing. I'm growing, y'all. You know what I'm saying? I ain't 16 no more. I ain't 17. I ain't 18. I ain't 19. I did 10 years at South Bay. I grew up. I'm 29 now. It's 2007. I'm feeling myself. I'm in my prime. So when I go there, I'm huge. You know what I'm saying? Muscles everywhere. I know I ain't got nothing now like I did. So don't get out of control on me. But I was doing my thing. And when I got off the bus, it was like, okay, I can't use this to my benefit. I got to use my mind. So the first thing I did was got into education. And when I got into education, I shined. Absolutely. But let me not go too far. The first thing I seen on the rec yard when I went there was the basketball court. And I'm a basketball fan. I love the Los Angeles Lakers. For the haters who don't like them, okay, you know, you have your opinions. But when I walked on that compound and I sat on that bench, I'm like, okay, man, these dudes balling here. You know, and I was a basketballer. You know, I could do my thing. You know, and then I seen a lot of people just shine away from me. You know? But the whole bench that I was on, it was full of dudes. So, and they was all looking at the game, talking about the game. So, you know, I see a dude do a dunk and they all screaming, "Dang, boy, let me see you do that again." And then next thing you know, I hear dude whistle. "Dang, boy, she bad, boy, she bad." So I'm like, dang, I ain't seen no real women since I've been on the compound. So I'm looking around. I'm like, dang, where she at? You feel me? But man, these dudes was talking about some old white man walking by with his blue sagging. They was talking about he was fine. I was like, oh my God, where I'm at? So I jump up off the bench. You know what I'm saying? They look at me, I look at them. I look over at the other bench and they laughing at me. You know what I'm saying? So I go over to the other bench and I sit down. I'm like, man, why you ain't tell me, man? They were like, man, we want you to get break in yourself. So I was like, okay. You know, so I wasn't at no ordinary camp. These dudes was doing unbelievable things here, you know? But them things that I didn't have any control over. See, in prison, you don't really have control over nothing. You know, because where you gonna go? I done seen dudes with drugs and the police catch them with it and they take off running. These dudes would run around the whole compound and all the police would be running behind him saying, "Stop, inmate, stop." And this dude howled drugs. He trying to throw him as far as he can away from him. You know, and they slap him, they catch him, they apprehend him, they put him in cuffs and they lock him up. You know, but where you gonna go? Where are you gonna go? In prison. You know, that's the thing people need to think about before they decide to do what they do to get where they at. You understand me? Because, you know, prison is a different world. It ain't the same world where you coming from. It's a whole world within a world. And when I went to Cross City, I started to see this world for what it was. You know, the first day in my dormitory, well, let me stop that. The first night that I was in my dormitory, man, I seen so many people get robbed in their cells. And I'm like, man, even though I think I hold a little bit of clout, if they gonna come into my cell with their knives, is I'm gonna have somebody attempt to take my life and me defend myself by taking theirs. Is it gonna come to this? Because that was the reality at Cross City. You know, one of the years that I stayed there, we ranked highest in Florida with murders. It was people flying and getting killed and stabbed up in there all the time. Listen, I remember one dude. This dude was a black dude and he was very smart and educated. And he was in the computer class with me, but he was a gang member. And he had a friend that came to the institution. That was his friend from the street. And when his friend seen his partner and the clout that he had in the game, he wanted that. So guess what he started telling people? That he was in the gang too. And so the leader of the gang on the compound found this out. And so he was sent a hit to do this boy in with knives. And his homeboy found out about it and tried to stop him. But like, listen, let me go do it, since he thinking he in it because of me. And the leader said, you know what? I'm gonna give you that ground, so go stick him. So his homeboy went, found his other homeboy that he know from the street and stabbed him in the back. Stabbed him in the back. The boy survived. Now the leader of the gang said, man, we don't think you done it good enough. We think because he your homeboy, you know what I'm saying, you showing him mercy. Well, if you don't go and hit him like we want you to hit him, we're gonna hit him and you. Check out Check this out. His homeboy went out there and he really hit this dude. He really hit him. And he went to jail. And he was telling everybody in the jail, said, hey, I hit this dude. And, you know, he gonna be all right. Because if it wasn't for me, he'd probably be dead right now. Well, he did die. I don't know if I told the story before, but I'm telling it now again because it makes sense. This dude did die, and, you know, FDLE came back to the cells and told the educated, prominent black dude, man, that, hey, we're gonna make sure you get life in prison. This dude was going home in 6 months. 6 months, and he risked and gave up his life just as little as that. And let me tell you something. Even though you heard this story from me, that ain't the first time I heard that story or seen it the 31 years that I was in the chain gang. Yeah, I seen it a lot. People just wasting their life, just like I hear. They're wasting their life. But they was wasting their life at Cross City. And I was having none of it. I was having none of it, you know, because I live by a code. I live by a code. And one of my codes is preventative maintenance. Preventative maintenance. That means to discern things before it happens. You know, I'm gonna stop this thing before it even take off. You know, if this dude wanna befriend me, I'm gonna cut the snake head off before it even happen. I'm gonna check out this dude's character before I even present myself to it. You feel me? That was my way of thinking. And that's how I walked into every opportunity that I had or situation. So when I got to Cross City, I said, you know what? I'm getting into education. Because every time I get into education, I said I was tired of the kitchen. The kitchen gave me hell and victimized me in South Bay, so I wanted none of that. So I went into education. And when I went into education again, after South Bay, because I did education there too, when I was in the education at Cross City, it really opened up my eyes and my mind to a total way of, a total different way of thinking. And, you know, when it opened up my mind, I was amazed at, you know, what I can do, how I can spread myself, how I can open up so many different avenues of income in prison, or just, you know, I want to express myself. I want to be more. So I got into the computer class and I learned how to be a computer repair technician, building, you know, rebuilding tower model computers. Even though we don't have that today, but this is what I was doing. I was trying to better myself. And I met a few friends, and one of my best friends named Maze, you know, this was my partner, and me and him used to hang out together everywhere. We used to work out, we used to do what we do. You know, we done seen some crazy things. I mean, one day we was on the compound, we were just chilling, and you had this dude in his pump was out there working out. You know, this was a familiar scene to us, so it wasn't like we was like seeing something special. So they was out there working out, but they end up getting into it with another dude. So they called 5-minute movement. Now, in prisons up in Florida, they have 5-minute movements. You got 5 minutes to get where you going. When it's movement over, you over. And you better not get caught in between. So dudes be trying to get somewhere between this 5-minute movement. So when they call 5-minute movement, we left me and my dog, we left off the rec yard. We went to the dormitory. Now, little do we know that the dude that got into it with the punk, they tried to stab the punk up, you know, and the punk was like, okay. You know, we finna leave off the compound. When they called the 5-minute movement, next 5-minute movement, they left off the compound and came into the dorm. Got a punk in my dorm. When they come upstairs, half the people gone. I was just coming off the rec yard to take me a shower. I'm sneaking to take me a shower, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm dirty. You don't supposed to take a shower after 5 o'clock up here, but I was taking me a shower before 5. You know what I'm saying? Because I was dirty. But I didn't even know what I was in for. Listen, check this out. Now, everybody don't understand who this punk was. This punk was white. And this punk was a killer. He was a killer. He had 2 bodies with inmates. and he was still on the compound. I don't know how he did it. Don't ask me why, but he was still on the compound. He was on our compound. And when this dude tried to jump him and his man out there, the dude chased them to the dorm. Up the stairs in our dorm. Now we got grill gates. And grill gates is if you run into something, some people can take the grill gate and close it and lock the cage behind. You can't get out no more unless the police pop the gate or come up there and open it up with a key. So I'm up there taking me a shower, getting out the shower, getting myself together because, I just got through working out with me and my dog, thinking I'm running away from trouble. This dude come up chasing behind the dude in his punk. So his homeboy seen him running back to come to the dorm with a knife to get at the punk of his homeboy. He decided to run and get at the punk and his boyfriend with his dog. When they got up there, the punk locked his boyfriend up in his room. The punk pulled out 2 long knives and he locked the grill gate. And listen, he stalked them 2 boys in there and stabbed them dudes up. You hear me? He started, blood was everywhere. We couldn't come out, I don't remember how many days. I was happy to take a shower. But he stabbed them boys up. You understand what I'm saying? And when I seen that, I was like, Lord, where I'm at? Where's I'm at? But these dudes is not playing here. I mean, they killing here. I'm seeing people fight with lock socks. I'm seeing people trying to kill themselves. This almost remind me of ACI, the first camp I ever been to. But I think the difference between this camp and the last camp was that I was older and I was used to seeing this type of stuff. I was used to seeing these type of things. I was used to living this type of life, man. The only thing that was pressing on my mind, pressing me down, breaking my spine, was the fact that I still had two natural life sentences in prison without the possibility of parole. And worse than that, I was time barred. And if you don't know what time barred means, everybody that's in prison right now that was locked up in the 90s, understand, even today, understand what, the Anti-Terrorist Act is. The Anti-Terrorist Act prevents you from filing anything to the federal court past your 3.850 after 2 years. If you don't file something within them 2 years to keep your case going, you got it up. It's gonna take special things to get you back before a judge in a case. And, when you first get to prison, you ain't thinking about filing no case or no file on you, especially if you're black, because you ain't got no more money. But you ain't thinking about filing nothing. You thinking about how you gonna survive the next night, let alone going to the law library. So as 2 years, it take 2 years for you to really adjust to an institution. So it took 2 years for me to adjust to the ACI. And within them 2 years, I was time barred. But I still filed something. And in 2000, I went back to court. And when I went back to court, nothing happened for me. And people rubber stamped me and sent me right back to prison. And they sent me back to prison because I wasn't ready for freedom yet. I was still playing. In my mind, I was still D-Love, Devin. I was still him. I wasn't broken. I didn't understand what spiritual hurt meant yet. But I found out. See, even though I was in hell and I was trying to seek for pleasure to help me to escape that hell, every time I thought I was clean, I still had dirt on me. But it was just dirt I couldn't see because I wasn't paying attention to it, or because I didn't want to pay attention to it. And I toted this dirt every year faithfully, even as I got older. And man, little did I know that I had to make a decision with the things that I've did over the years. I have had to make a decision to let it go and accept it at the same time. And when I come back, I'm gonna speak to y'all about that. You know, I'm gonna speak to y'all about how I feel, you know, to go through this type of change in the chain gang. Yeah. Because things hit me when I was at South Bay. I was there 14 years. And I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it to y'all. Peace, JD.